Hi there, it's Oliver from Spitfire Audio, and I'm here today with the fabulous Sacconi Quartet. Hello guys.
Hi.
If you could quickly introduce yourselves, please.
So I'm Ben Hancock, I play first violin in the quartet. We've been playing together now for 15 years. This is in fact our 15th anniversary, so we know each other very well, maybe too well.
How long have you been playing the violin, and maybe just a quick background of how you guys met, or how you met?
Yeah, I started when I was very little, when I was 4, and we met. Well, we started playing together in 2001 at the Royal College of Music, and but knew each other before that. Actually, we'd done various bits and pieces of work, so we knew that it would work well.
Cool.
I'm Hannah Dawson. I'm second violin in the Sacconi Quartet. Each of us, we started together, and we are 4 founder members, which is quite rare, I think, for a group to have not had any change of personnel. And I also started the violin when I was 4 years old. So I'm now 34, so do the maths.
Hi, I'm Cara Berridge. I'm the cellist in the Sacconi Quartet. And I started by playing the violin when I was quite little, about 3 or 4 apparently. I didn't really enjoy it. I hated having to do my half an hour practice every day. So I found a cello when I was about 12, and because my father was an instrument repairer, so he had instruments around the house, and I saw this cello and thought, that's quite cool. So I just started having a go on it and had to do my half-hour violin practice before I was allowed to play the cello. So,
oh wow!
And I loved playing the cello, so I haven't looked back. So that's good.
You're playing many more instruments then, or?
No, just the piano. I still do a bit of folk fiddle. But...
You should hear her play folk fiddle.
And I met these guys. They all knew each other before because they're all from Kent, and I'm the black sheep from the north. I'm from Leeds, so I met them all at college, and yeah, we know each other, like Hannah said, pretty well.
I'm Robin Ashwell. I played viola in the Sacconi Quartet, and before viola I played violin. Started that when I was 6, and I've been playing now for 31 years, so do the maths on that.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome to Spitfire, and today we're going to talk a little bit about quartet music in general, the Sacconi Quartet. And first, maybe could you tell us a little bit about the development of quartet music?
Well, really the quartet started with Haydn. He wrote the first, he wrote how many? 69 quartets?
68, 69.
Which was just an incredible thing to do, because it really did lay down this huge challenge to all the composers who followed him. He obviously was a total genius and could, found writing in that medium. Obviously, he could just do it, and his output was enormous. And many composers following just found it a huge challenge. I think a lot of it was down to how easy he found it. But it's just an amazing medium for making music. The balance of the 4 voices, it's a democracy, but it allows for individuality as well. And so I think that's always appealed from that. That's why it's stood the test of time, and that's why people still consider, when they write a string quartet, it's a huge undertaking, because it's always transparent, yet at the same time it can be symphonic. So it really has to have everything. There's no room for any kind of weakness in the writing or in the playing, because it's a very pure medium.
You can't hide between other players, or if you do a mistake.
No,
it's just,
and if it's also if it's bad part writing, it's really, really clear as well.
Yeah,
you always feel if something's written well for quartet, don't you?
What would you say are the key differences? I mean, you mentioned a few, but between the quartets and like a large string section, and each of you individually, what do you prefer to play?
Well, playing in it, like you said before, and there's nowhere to hide in a string quartet, and you're responsible for your own part, and the blend of a string quartet. When there's just the 4 of you, you can get this. Sometimes when you're performing, you get this thing which I can't really describe, but in the middle, something in the middle of the quartet, and it feels this amazing because you know each other so well and what each other's going to do by different movements and gestures, and that's such an amazing thing. And if you're in a string orchestra, you can't get that. So I mean, I'm sure you can get that, but you can't get it so easily because you don't know exactly what each other's doing. And also with a section, you're one of a team of section, whereas where the team is just the four of us, and that responsibility, and it's really exciting when you're performing and playing, I find.
Is that excitement about trying to know what's going to happen before it's going to happen, and to always be able to second guess what everybody else is thinking. So in that moment, it's not predestined, but the aim is to always make the performance different and fresh and new.
Okay.
Exactly. So you can be more daring and more spontaneous than you can be with a greater amount of people, because there's just the four of you, and you know that if you go that way, the others hopefully will go with you.
Will follow.
Yeah. And that's just the brilliant thing about playing live and creating music together. It's really exciting.
When we were at college, we played a lot of orchestra, and obviously before, and us three, me and the boys, were in the Kent Youth Orchestra together, so we had a lot of experience latterly. And then for many years I didn't play in an orchestra at all. We just did quartet. And then a few years ago I started occasionally dabbling, and it's very exciting. It's amazing to have that sound again. But for me, string quartet would be my choice because, I like, as everyone's been saying, to be able to put your own mark on the music and to be able to discuss it just between us four. And just that sense of spontaneity is really special, I think.
Then there's something really interesting about the tuning. Is there a difference between the orchestral tuning or a tuning within a quartet?
As a quartet, you aim to be able to tune perfectly. So not just with perfect octaves, fifths and fourths, which those are the intervals we're used to hearing perfect on a piano. But you can use expressive intonation as well. So we've got the option of playing perfect thirds, whether that's a minor or a major third. We can try and we do make sure that those harmonics, basically we can reduce the amount of beats that come from the interference of what you'd have on sort of equal temperament on a piano. So what the result of that, the aim is actually that every chord should really ring, and because a string quartet isn't amplified, the result, if a quartet plays really in tune, it sounds bigger because the harmonics line up. And so with everything working and sort of beating and not clashing, you get an amazing resonance. So that's the aim when we play. But also the interesting thing is then you can break those rules as well. So if you want to stress a dissonance, or you want to do something, you can actually deliberately go against that to make the audience feel less at ease. So you've got many more options, sort of how you use intonation to affect the mood of a performance.
So what is the beauty of writing for a quartet rather than a large orchestra?
I think the quartet sound is particularly intimate and close, and also very clear and direct, rather than the more massed string sound that one gets from an orchestra, both chamber orchestra and symphony orchestra.
But there can be a frailty to you can get with just this single lines and single strings. That will be not a completely different kind of frailty that you'll get with a string orchestra or a symphony orchestra. So I guess it's nuance, isn't it? It's what you need, and it's a completely different palette to a whole orchestra. And also because of the fact that we're used to playing with each other, we can, we have a very good control over that palette of sound because we're very used to it.
So that's a very good point you're mentioning this about. I want to talk about blending in with each other and your instruments blending in with each other, because I'm assuming each of you has a slight different kind of playing style. How do you make it sound like a beautiful quartet? How do you blend and kind of talk to each other?
Well, I think there's many different ways. There's different schools of playing, a stringed instrument, and some people, have might be the way that they produce a sound or their vibrato or something that's very sort of different. And I think, in a way, that our sounds to start off with, we were very sympathetic, and obviously we all have our own sound when we don't all play the same within the quartet. But I think when we first met, there's something about the way that we approached playing, and the sounds blended. But it wasn't a really hard thing to do, was it? It wasn't something that we found. Sometimes you would play with somebody and they play so differently to you. It's really difficult to get your sounds to blend. But I think instantly it was quite good between us, and then we sort of worked on that, and the way that you would prepare a piece of music by the way that you approach it. I think we're all very sort of democratic about it and very understanding, and we take each other's points on board, and you sort of listen loads to do that. But it's always been, we've always strived. Thank you to do that. Yeah.
But it is something that we've had to develop, and there's
yeah.
quartet technique that doesn't come naturally, and it's a different way of playing an orchestra and to playing solo stuff. So you kind of learn that actually often the bass is louder than maybe Robin his sound will sit on top. If we're playing in octaves, then his sound will be you'll blend in a way with Cara. And the same with me. Often, if we have things in octaves, then I'll play my line much stronger than Ben on the top.
Mm-hmm.
It just sounds better. Just blends much better.
So it comes with experience.
Yeah.
I was going to say sort of blend and things like that, but every element of playing in quartet is just never. You're never at rest. You're always searching to try and improve it. So blend actually is probably one of the things that comes up in every single rehearsal. It's never something that we're like, right, tick, done that.
Yeah.
Because every piece demands that those questions of us, and you're always changing as individuals as well. So you're always working on that group sound and asking those questions of what is important where. Because the blend shouldn't be the same in a piece all the way through. Sometimes we often talk about lighting and how we try and light the players in the group through the sound, rather than it being always one way. So we should be able to, the audience should know, we should be able to direct how, hopefully, what people are listening to in the chords and in the lines.
But you're always listening to it as well, and depending on where you are and what the room's like, and it may favour the treble or the bass and things like that. So you do have to always
consider it.
Yeah,
as well.
always.
A very delicate matter, I'm guessing. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
It's also about knowing how far you can push it, because although we want to be perfectly blended, we don't want to be just have a completely homogeneous sound that doesn't have any interesting spices in it, and so it's combining the individuality of each line with this perfect blend overall, and knowing at what times you need to more strike out, and more other times you want to really go inside that blend. And I guess it's just like you were saying, it's constantly changing.
How did you guys form? What's the story of the Sacconi Quartet? How did you exactly meet, and when did this project?
Should we tell the real story?
Tell the real story.
Okay, yeah. So this is the long. Sometimes we give an abridged version, but
we have time. We have time.
Basically, there was one concert that we did before the quartet was formed. So we played with a lot of different players, but this group, the four of us, had done a lot of concerts, bits of background music here and there. So we knew one another pretty well, and we were asked to do something that was more like a concert than an event. So this is probably about 16 years ago, and so we were asked to play. It was a Mozart divertimento, wasn't it? And what else? Anything else?
Pretty much it.
That was pretty much it. It's quite a nice gig, really.
I thought we should
and then we were left. It was in Herefordshire, so we we were put up in a house, and the couple said, we're going to bed, we're off shooting in the morning, and here's a magnum of wine, you just go to bed when you want. And I think we all got royally drunk and I had a really good time, and then woke up in the morning, and when we sobered up we had to drive back, and we talked in the car about how actually we should try and make a go of this. And at that point I wasn't at the college, I was studying privately, and you guys were at the college, and so from that September I started at the college, and we from then for at least two years we met every day and rehearsed and worked and played with various professors, and it started there really, didn't it?
So it was a hangover idea initially.
It was a horrible journey back. I remember it was sheeting it down with rain. You were driving your mum's car.
It's true.
And we were all sitting there going, yeah, I think you should come to college, Ben. I think we should. If you come to college, we'll start a quartet.
We can do this more often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can have this much fun.
And we're still doing it.
You guys have toured the world and with like rock bands. Do you guys have any kind of rock and roll moments or like highlights of your tour?
Yeah, there was a poster of us the other day in Germany next to the Chippendales and Paul McCartney, so we felt pretty famous then.
Wow,
yeah.
Cool.
We'd made it.
Yeah.
And it was lucky we found it because we couldn't find where our concert was. And
So you got it from the poster.
Exactly, that was
That's amazing.
Yeah.
rock and
Well,
roll.
we met. We did a session for Macca. That was pretty cool, and recorded a solo quartet at Air.
Wow.
With which we had no idea, because quite often with sessions you don't really know what you're going to until you're there.
Sorry, quickly for the maybe non-English people.
Paul
who is
McCartney.
Macca?
Oh, Sir Paul McCartney.
Okay, yeah,
of
cool.
the Beatles.
Good.
And that was really exciting actually, because we got to the studio, and
So you met him as well?
yeah, he was
Wow.
there. But so the fixer said, yeah, this is for Paul McCartney, and you're going to be recording a quartet. So we were in a booth at the back of the room, and there was a whole symphony orchestra as well. So that was really nerve-wracking. And Robin's probably the biggest fan of the Beatles, not just of the quartet, but maybe ever.
In the world.
And so when I remember you asked, so Dario Marinelli had written this film score, and then Paul McCartney had been asked to write a song in the film, and so this was what this session was for. And so Dario was there, and then Robin said, "Is Paul here?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course. You know, he wrote the music. He's in the booth." And I remember he
Nearly collapsed.
and then the best thing was it started with a viola
Viola
solo.
We had to retake it 3 times because I was so on edge. I kept messing it up.
That was fun.
That was funny.
That's pretty cool.
We played for the Queen for their Christmas dinner for the entire royal family. And it's not really rock and roll, is it? But,
Maybe rock and roll wasn't quite the right. Just any highlights. I mean, that's pretty rock and roll, playing for the Queen.
Yeah, that was just, you know, we did especially when we were at the Royal College, we did some amazingly sort of interesting. You went into some incredibly interesting places because we were a quartet at the Royal College, and so we went to Buckingham Palace and met the royal family. Did a lot of events like that. We played for Elton John's White Tie and Tiara Ball.
Wow.
Once, and there were a lot of
Pretty cool.
a lot of A-listers there.
Are you guys more nervous if you have to play a gig like that, or are you
Funny enough, not,
already
because
really
It
experienced?
wasn't really concerts. It was just a quartet. The important concerts for us are if we play in the Wigmore Hall or we go somewhere, or concerts that we're preparing for where we're playing the music.
Yes.
It's us on a stage. But of course there are things like that are fun and obviously important as well.
Yeah.
But it's funny how you're probably not that nervous.
Okay.
It's just what we do.
What was your favourite gig?
Well, our 10th birthday concert was lovely, which was nearly 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
It was at King's Place in 2012.
Oh,
Really
that
nice.
sounds beautiful.
Full up,
as well.
and we did Death and the Maiden. Ben always remembers what we've played.
That one.
We did Bartot 3,
It's lovely.
didn't we? Bartot 3.
No, it was another time.
Oh, was
What was
it?
it for that? No, I think it was more
No, it
recently.
was,
it?
it
Was
was.
it? Okay,
Yeah.
there you go then. Nice. You sure?
Cool.
No,
Yeah, maybe it was.
I
Actually.
don't know. I can't
Wow.
remember.
I think after our festival in Kent, that's a highlight of most years, isn't it? And we're going to have our 10th festival next
Nice.
year, 10th year.
Cool.
So there's always some amazing concerts in that.
Mm.
Did you guys ever experience any kind of low moments, or where you maybe thought, "Ooh, I'm not sure I want to be part of the quartet anymore, or maybe we should do something different or something else"? Were there any of those moments?
There's been hard times, haven't there, for the quartet? And I think as a group and as a musician, you always find times when things are going really well and you're playing well, and that sounds great. And there are times that's just really hard. And we've had times as a quartet, I think, when we've had to really sort of buckle down and work really hard. And there's times when you're not getting so many concerts as you'd like, and then there are times when it's so busy you can't have time to go to sleep. It's just we've had tough times, but we always sort of buckle down and get through it, and it's generally pretty good, isn't it?
I'd say so.
We've heard about some crazy new experimental stuff. You guys have been involved. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Actually, that's probably one of the highlights, actually, that unfortunately Cara was away on maternity leave, so she couldn't do this concert that we did in the Spitalfields Festival.
Okay.
And we did 3, didn't we? 3 heartfelts. And so it was a really interesting project with a roboticist company. What would you call them?
Yeah, robotics design company. Rusty Squid.
Mm-hmm.
Called Rusty Squid. And they designed us these amazing, basically, heart monitors encased in beautiful wooden boxes that were similar to the human heart. And audience members got to hold the hearts whilst we played Beethoven 132. And the audience were able to move around the space, feeling connected to us in a unique way. So that was pretty amazing.
That's really cool.
Experience.
Wow. Yeah. Did you guys have good responses from that? Like good feedback, and to many people there?
Yeah, very good feedback. I mean, mixed as well. Some people didn't like it at all, but a lot of people loved it and felt this amazing closeness connection
to the musician,
to the musicians that you would never normally experience, and also you experience it in a very tactile way. If you touch rather than just seeing a visualization of the heartbeat on a screen or something like that, it's a much more real sense of connection.
Wow.
So it was an amazing thing to have done. Yeah, it was very, very exciting during those performances, actually giving the performance and feeling sort of exposed to the audience in the way they're holding your heart in their hand.
Wow.
It's very much a piece connected to life and death as well. It's about it's about survival. So actually, to some people felt feeling a heartbeat through that was a really deep connection. Other people, like you said, absolutely hated it.
Can't please everyone.
But it's really
it's a pretty
important.
specific experiment, really.
It is. I mean, it's just really important to push boundaries and find ways that we can connect what we do with new audiences. That's what we want to do. So Heartfelt was probably one of the first of hopefully many projects that we work with technologists and use digital technology like this Spitfire library to show what an amazing thing a quartet is.
I think one of the really, really exciting things about Heartfelt was that people actually stayed behind and talked for a long time. They couldn't get them out of the halls because they were discussing the music in a different way. So often in classical music concerts I find you stay with your friends and you might discuss it, or it's a personal experience, but actually to have people en masse just opening up this discussion about this incredible music was really exciting.
Wow.
Actually.
So as a quartet, and probably also as individual players, you've been playing both concerts and TV or film music. So can you talk a little bit about your experiences and about the different approaches, maybe?
They're very different things, I think. Playing quartets for a concert and recording for a film or something like that, because they're different parameters. With what essentially we've got a lot of freedom when we have a piece of music that we know very well, and the goal is for that performance is to try and make it feel as fresh and as new as possible. And then the complete contrast to that is going into a session never having seen the music before and trying to make it feel like, you know, we've known it for a very long time. So those are really, really interesting, different challenges, because you're almost trying to do the opposite to what is naturally the case in both those things. We know the quartet repertoire very well, but it has to come across as new every time. Whereas when you're often your sight reading, or you've got, you know, a couple of takes to get something as good as you possibly can, you have to very much try and get into the mindset of the composer and the nature of the piece. I think both things really help the other.
Okay.
If you can improve your techniques doing one thing, they can feed back into the other thing.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I think preparing it's a totally different thing. Exactly, playing like a Beethoven string quartet, you spend hours talking about how to play one note and when you're in the studio for playing for a film, you have to just do it, you know, straight away, and it's recorded and that's it, and you don't have the luxury of doing that in a way. But each is exciting in its own different way. They're just different ways of playing, I think, and you have to be very quick and on the ball.
So when writing for a string quartet, what are some tips to write well, and what are some common mistakes composers make when writing for it?
I think you want to be careful with having two parts in unison, especially on the same octave, because the hardest number of players to play in tune is two. Well, the more players you get, the more you get a blended sound, so that might be more something that's easier in symphony orchestra. But so being aware when writing for quartet of lines coming together, especially if they're, say, high for the two violins, or if sometimes there's cello and viola line where cello's up an octave, so to match the same octave as me, it's actually the hardest when there's just the two of us. To get it sounding really, really good, and it might in the end be better just with one player.
Okay.
It's often used as a kind of a special effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when it's used well, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like examples like in Britain's second string quartet, there's a really furious passage in the violins where suddenly they're in unison, da 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 da, and it's kind of nuts. You think, why would you write like that? But actually, the sound result is because it's a frenetic. It's so much. It really, really works. But again, I think you just have to be careful how you choose that, because a quartet sounds best when it's written in good 4-part harmony and there's good counterpoint. And so it's probably going back to the basic rules of Bach chorales and how harmony, with passing notes and how things resolve and avoiding parallel fifths and all these basic compositional techniques that stand up, because that's how sort of harmony works, and then knowing when to break those rules and why, because it's kind of going back to the fact that a quartet is very exposed, and so it really shows up the lines. So the writing just has to be very clear. I think your ideas have to be very clear, and if they are, then it works.
So you would say it's probably much more difficult writing for a quartet than it is for a large section, again, for the similar reasons.
None of us actually write music, so we can't answer that honestly. We know historically that a lot of, for example, Brahms threw away so many quartets. He destroyed them because he felt he wasn't doing what he wanted to do. And some composers only wrote one quartet, like Ravel, so it just stood there, and you think, I wish they'd written some more. It's obviously a difficult thing to do, but that should never put anyone off that thinks they want to try, because again, the amazing thing about writing now and modern music is, in fact, although those old rules of harmony are there, it's it's no holds barred. If something sounds good, or you believe something should be a certain way, you should do it.
I don't think it's not going to be more difficult than writing for an orchestra. I think it's just these composers had difficulties because they had maybe Beethoven or other composers that previously Haydn composed amazing string quartets, and people wanted it to be perfect music. But I think there's just so many endless possibilities for the sounds that you can create with 4 strings. You could emulate a lot of sounds in an orchestra just by the different effects, and which we have sampled all the time.
If you were to recommend one string quartet piece to someone who has never listened to a string quartet, which one would it be?
Jonathan Duff, Out of Time.
Beethoven, Opus 131.
Ravel string quartet.
Damn it, I was going to say that.
Gotta think of another one.
Yeah. Schubert, Death and the Maiden.
What would you say is the signature sound of the Sacconi Quartet, and how do quartets sound differently stylistically?
I think quartets sound different because you hear the 4 individual voices, and so you actually hear 4 personalities in the group. So really, the quartet is the sum of its 4 individuals, and I think for whatever reason, the fact we managed to stay together, and audiences hopefully do like coming back to hear us again and again. The way we perform music, we try and give it an energy and a freshness which is which we feel honest about as well. It's really important that music doesn't feel contrived, and that you're not there has to be the right blend of putting your stamp on something but then still being faithful to the composer. And if it's one way too much, if it's too reverential, or at the same time it's too much listen to us, then for me the ideal performance is that the perfect balance of personality, but also a good knowledge of how a piece should be played. That's what we aim for.
So we're going to come to the last question now. What are your plans for the near future?
Well, very soon we have our 15th birthday concert in King's Place, which we're playing an amazing piece called In Damascus by Jonathan Dove with us and tenor Mark Padmore, which we commissioned. Friends of ours got the money together to commission it, and it's an incredible piece, and so we're doing that, and Mendelssohn Opus 80 and Mozart 499. So that's on the 13th of July.
So in Damascus we premiered at our Folkestone Festival, which has just happened. It happens in May every year. So as Hannah said, Jonathan wrote us the piece for us and Mark, and the London premiere will be our 15th birthday concert in King's Place. We're also playing it in Aldborough, and we'll be touring it in the future as well. What else have we got coming up?
I think we're going to continue our I don't know how to put this. Somebody said our different streak. So we quite like doing. We were hacked a few years ago in Bristol by all these technologists, and we like to, like Ben said earlier on about the heartfelt, reaching out to different audiences. So we're still looking at aspects of that we can take into concerts, and we might do something in our festival next year with a sound artist. Is that what you call him? Sound artist, and things like that. So exciting things coming up.
Really exciting times, yeah.
We're going to give another performance of Beethoven in the Dark, which is where we play Opus 131, one of his big late quartets with all the lights turned out, and the whole thing from memory. It's really thrilling to perform like that, and the audience sits around. We sit in a circle, and the audience sits all around us. So that's
where is that going to be?
That's going to be the next one's in Canterbury, and then again in Colchester in September, and we'll hopefully do more of those during the year. So that's another completely different way for an audience to experience that piece of music.
More an experimental side.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, well, thank you very much for visiting, and good luck for all your projects, the Sacconi Quartet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.